connected to iPhone.
Reno.
Right now we're joined live by former U.S. diplomat Jim Jontas. Jim, here we go again, it seems. What do you think about Donald Trump's decision? Was it unexpected?
You know, when this whole, let's be honest, false flag, this whole Duma hoax first came up, I expected an almost immediate response the way President Trump did last year. He held off for a few days. There was some indication. The heads were cooling. Maybe we would wait for the OPCW inspectors to get to Duma. Some people who had been following this very critically even seemed to think we were out of the woods, and I kept thinking we weren't. I think it was clear he was going to do something, and I think it's unfortunately either a function of just how misled he is by all the really bad people he's put around him, which, by the way, he has to take the blame for it because he appointed them, or how scared he is, how boxed in he is by all the various scandals that have been aimed at him by the very same deep state whose agenda he is now implementing with this strike. Let's be honest, if you're Al-Qaeda and their various offshoots in Syria, you've got to be very happy tonight.
Now, Jim, while we are speaking, we've got split screen with you, and then we also have some images live from Cyprus, where we're seeing airplanes taking off from the Cyprus air base to Syria, which is, I guess we can say, is part of this ongoing attack, ongoing strikes. But if we go back to the situation in Duma, there is still no evidence of a chemical attack in Duma that we've seen, or compelling evidence that would necessitate a strike on this scale. Why do you think he decided to take military action at this time?
Oh, I think preventing a real investigation in Duma was one of the reasons for it. Look, let's be clear. Even if the accusation of what happened in Duma was the work of the Syrian government were absolutely true, this action still would not be justified, in my opinion. It certainly would not be legal, and it certainly would not be time urgent. So what exactly is the big hurry here? The big hurry, in my opinion, is that you've got the inspectors on the ground in Damascus now, ready to go to the scene and confirm what I am morally convinced is the case, is that there was no attack, and even if there, by some chance there were, and I don't think there was, it certainly was not the work of the Syrian government, just as we saw with Khan Shaykhun last year. I think this timing was directly involved time to make sure that inspection could not take place, especially after the Russians pointed the finger, and I think truthfully, at the British. because we know that MI6 supports the white helmets. MI6 was behind the Steele dossier. MI6 was implicated in the Skripal poisoning at Salisbury. There are a lot of very dirty British fingerprints here, and I wouldn't be at all surprised if Theresa May was very, very keen on pushing Donald Trump to move ahead on this as fast as possible.
Now, in his remarks, Donald Trump deviated from his prepared remarks. We have a transcript of what he was supposed to have said, but he deviated from that a little bit, directing his comments directly to Iran and Russia, asking why they wanted to be associated with a murderous regime. Also, saying that hopefully someday the United States and Russia would get along, but then maybe not. He also said that these three countries, the U.S., the U.K., and France, have marshaled their righteous power against barbarism. Where do you think this decision could lead? Do you think that it could possibly spiral towards a military conflict directly with Russia?
Yes, of course it could, and that's what we need to see in the next day or so, however long this attack lasts. What exactly gets hit? Are Russians killed? According to the reports I've seen, this is not just an isolated hit on an airbase somewhere. This is in Damascus. Who knows in what other parts of the country? Who else is going to be the target of these strikes? I don't know what the Russians will do in response. It's not up to me to say what they should do in response to this. As far as what he said about Russia, he had indicated something like this in a tweet the other day, that we could do so much to help Russia with their economy, somehow suggesting to them that if they walk away from this evil Bashar al-Assad, we are going to help them with their economic development. And there's so many things wrong with that. To start with, are we going to walk away from our dictatorial Saudi friends who are destroying Yemen? I don't see anybody threatening anybody over that. And I think you also have to put that in the context of the expulsion of Russian diplomats on the Skripal hoax, the sanctions that were recently thrown at Russia by the United States, Britain, and several other countries, that a number of people are interpreting as aimed at regime change, an open invitation for oligarchs to get together and stage a coup in Russia. I don't think anybody in Russia in their right mind would take what Mr. Trump said as anything really but a threat. You do what we say, or we will destroy your economy. Well, if you do what we say, maybe we will help you then. I don't think anybody should believe that.
Now, Jim, we're getting reports from Reuters that there are already explosions heard in Damascus. Also, Reuters saying that the Barzeh district in Damascus has been hit by U.S. attacks, specifically scientific research facilities located in that area. Donald Trump has said that he is targeting Damascus's ability to create chemical weapons. How extensive do you think that the bombings will be there in Damascus and in Syria?
I don't know, because let's be clear about it. I don't think Syria has chemical weapons. I think that the Russian effort to get them out of there after what happened in Ghouta in 2013 was genuine. It was certified as genuine by the OPCW. This notion that these strikes are actually hitting chemical weapons facilities, I think, is a conscious, transparent lie. And that these targets are being chosen for other reasons. Now, what those other reasons are, I don't know. Are they decapitation strikes? Are they trying to murder Bashar al-Assad? Are they trying to decimate the Syrian government? I don't know. But what we can say is, once again, we find ourselves acting as the Air Force of all these jihadist terrorists, Al-Qaeda, ISIS, Jaish al-Islam, Ahrar al-Sham, and it's really morally reprehensible.
Now, we're also getting a word that the United States is allegedly using Tomahawk missiles to target several targets in Syria. One thing that I'm interested in
President Bashar al-Assad of Syria, thank you very much for talking to RT today.
You're most welcome in Damascus.
So, many people were convinced a year ago that you wouldn't make it this far. But yet again, we're sitting in a newly renovated presidential palace and recording this interview. Who exactly is your enemy at this point?
My enemy is terrorism and the instability in Syria. This is our enemy. It's not about people. It's not about persons. The whole issue is not about me staying or leaving. It's about the country being safe or not. So this is the enemy that we've been fighting as Syrians.
I've been here for the last 2 days, and I had a chance to talk to a couple of people from Damascus. Some of them say that whether you stay or go doesn't really matter at this point anymore. What do you say to that?
I think for the president to stay or to leave is a popular issue. It's not personal issue. And the only way to define this term precisely through the ballot boxes. So it's not about what we hear, it's about what we can get through that box. And that box will tell any president to stay or leave, very simply.
I think what they meant was that at this point, you are not the target anymore, Syria is.
I wasn't the target, I wasn't the problem anyway. You know, the West always created enemies. It was the communism, then it became the Islam, then it became Saddam Hussein for different reasons. And now they wanted to create a new enemy, Bashar. So they said the problem is the president, so he has to leave. That's why we have to focus on the real problem, not to waste our time listening to what they say.
But do you personally still believe that you are the only man who can hold Syria together and the only man who can put an end what the world calls a civil war?
We have to look at it from two aspects. The first aspect is the constitution, and I have my authority through the constitution. According to this authority and to the constitution, I have to be able to solve the problem. But if we mean it that you don't have any other Syrian who can be president, no. Any Syrian could be president. We have many Syrians who are eligible to be in that position. You cannot link the whole country only to one person always.
But you're fighting for your country. Do you believe that you are the man who can put end to the conflict and restore peace?
I have to be the man who can do that, and I hope so. I have. But it's not about the power of the president. It's about the whole society. I have to be precise about this. The president cannot do anything without institutions and without support of the people. So the fight now is not the president's fight, it's Syrians' fight. Every Syrian is involved in defending his country now.
It is, and a lot of civilians are dying as well in the fighting. So if you were to win this war, how would you reconcile with your people after everything that has happened?
Let's be, again, more precise. The problem is not between me and the people. I don't have a problem with the people, because the United States is against me, the West is against me, many Arab countries, including Turkey, which is not Arab, of course, against me. And if the Syrian people are against me, how can I be here?
They're not against you. They're not against you.
If the whole world, or let's say big part of the world, including your people against you, are you Superman? You're just a human being. So this is not logical. So it's not about reconciling with the people. And it's not about reconciliation between the Syrian and the Syrian. You don't have civil war. It's about terrorism and support coming from abroad to support terrorists to destabilize Syria. This is our war.
You still don't believe it's a civil war? Because I know that there's a lot of, except for terrorism, which everyone believes takes place in Syria, there's also a lot of confession-based strife. For example, we all heard about the mother who has two sons. One son is fighting for the Gaudat forces, another one is fighting for the rebel forces. How is this not a civil war?
We have division, but division doesn't mean civil war. It's completely different. Civil war should be based on ethnical problem or sectarian problem. Sometimes you may have sectarian or ethnical tension, and tension doesn't mean problem. So if you have division in the same family or in a bigger tribe or whatever, or in the same city, it doesn't mean civil war. It's completely different, and that's normal. You should expect that.
When I asked about reconciling with your people, this is what I meant. I've heard you say on many different occasions that the only thing you care about is what Syrian people think of you and what Syrian people feel towards you and whether you should be a president or not. Aren't you afraid that at the end of the day, because there's been so much damage done to the country, that they won't care about the truth, but they will just blame you?
Yeah, this is a hypothetical question, because what the people think is the right thing. So what they think, we have to ask them. But I don't have this information right now. So again, I'm not afraid about what they think about me. I'm afraid about my country. We have to be focused on that.
Okay. You know, for years, there has been so many stories about almighty Syrian army, omnipotent Syrian secret services. But then we see that, you know, the government forces aren't able to crush the enemy like people expected it would. And we see terrorist attacks take place in the middle of Damascus almost every day. Were there myths about the Syrian army and about the strong Syrian secret services?
Usually when you have army, when you have secret intelligence, things should focus on external enemy. not internal enemy. Even if you have internal enemy like terrorism, you have society that could help you, at least not to provide the terrorists with incubator. In that case, it's a new kind. We have a new kind of war. Terrorism through proxies, either Syrians living in Syria or foreigner fighters coming from abroad. So it's a new style of war. This is first. So we have to adapt with this new style. It takes time. It's not easy.
Okay.
And to say this is easy as a normal or let's say traditional or regular war, no. It's much more difficult. Second, the support that they've been had, that's been offered to those terrorists in every aspect, armaments, money, political, is unprecedented. So you have to expect that it's going to be tough war and difficult war. You don't expect a small country like Syria to defeat all those countries that have been fighting us through proxies just in days or weeks.
Yeah, because when you look at it, I mean, on one hand, you have one leader with the army. He tells his army, go straight, go left, go right, and the army obeys. On the other hand, you have fractions of terrorists who have no one to unify them, no unified strategy to fight you. So how does that really happen when it comes to fighting each other?
This is another aspect of the problem, that those terrorists fighting from within the cities. In the cities you have civilians. When you fight this kind of terrorists, you have to be aware that you should do the minimum damage to the infrastructure and minimum damage to the civilians, because you have civilians and you have to fight. You cannot leave terrorists just killing and destroying. So this is the difficulty in these kinds of war.
You know, the infrastructure, military infrastructure, economy is suffering. It's almost as if like Syria is going to fall into decay very soon, and the time is against you. In your opinion, how much time do you need to crush the enemy?
You cannot answer that question because no one claimed that he had the answer about when to end the war, unless we have the answer when they're going to stop smuggling foreign fighters from different part of this world, especially the Middle East and the Islamic world, and when they're going to stop sending armaments to those terrorists. If they stop, this is where I can answer. I can tell you in weeks we can finish everything. It's not a big problem. But as long as we have continuous supply in men and armaments and everything else and logistics, is going to be long-term war.
Also, when you think about it, you have 4,000 kilometers of loosely controlled borders, so you have your enemy that can at any time cross over Jordan or Turkey, rearm, get medical care, and come back to fight you.
Exactly.
How exactly you deal with
no country
winning?
in the world can seal the border. Sometimes they use this word, which is not correct. Even the United States cannot seal its border with Mexico, for example. Maybe the same for Russia, which is a big country. So no country can seal the border. You can only have better situation on the border when you have good relation with your neighbors. Something that we don't have, at least with Turkey now. Turkey support more than any other country the smuggling of armaments and terrorists.
Can I ask you something? I've been in Turkey recently, and people there are actually very worried that war will happen between Syria and Turkey. Do you think a war with Turkey is a realistic scenario?
Rationally, no, I don't think in that regard. For two reasons. The war needs public support, and the majority of the Turkish people don't need this war. So I don't think any rational official would think about going against the will of the public in his country. The same for the Syrian people. So it's not the conflict or the difference is not between the Syrian people and the Turkish people. It's about the government and the official, between our official and their official, because of their politics. So I don't see any war between Syria and Turkey in the horizon.
When is the last time you spoke to Erdogan, and how did the talk end?
May 2011, after he won the elections.
So you just congratulated him?
Yeah, just
and that was the last time?
It was the last time.
Who is shelling Turkey? The government forces or the rebels?
In order to find the answer, you need a joint committee between the two armies in order to know who shell who. Because on the borders you have a lot of terrorists who have mortars, so they can do the same. You have to go investigate the bomb itself, the place and so on. And that didn't happen. We asked the Turks the Turkish government to have this committee, they refused. So you cannot have the answer. But when you have this terrorists on your border, you don't exclude them from doing so, because the Syrian army doesn't have any order to share the Turkish land, because we don't find any interest in this, and we don't have any enmity with the Turkish people. We consider them as brothers, so why to do it? Unless that happens by mistake, you need the investigation. So far we don't have the answer.
So you accept that it may be mistakenly from the government forces?
That could happen. This is a possibility. In every war you have mistakes. You know, in Afghanistan, they always talk about friendly fire. If you can kill your soldier. So that it means in every war that could happen. But we cannot say yes.
Tell me something. Why has Turkey, that you call a friendly nation, become a foothold for the opposition?
Not Turkey. Only Erdogan's government. Only, just to be precise, not the Turkish people. Turkish people need good relation with the Syrian people. This is Erdogan. I think he believes that if Muslim Brotherhood take over in the region, and especially in Syria, he can guarantee his political future. This is one reason. The other reason, personally, I think that he's the new Sultan of the Ottoman, and he can control the region as it was during the Ottoman Empire under different, let's say, umbrella, which is the Islamic, but not the Ottoman Empire, not to be Khalifa. But in his heart, he thinks that he's Khalifa, maybe. These are the main two reasons for him to change or to shift his policy from zero problems to zero friends.
But it's not just the West that opposes you at this point. You have so many enemies in the Arab world. Why? And that's to say, like 2 years ago, when someone heard your name in the Arab world, they would straighten their ties. And now on the first occasion, they betray you. Why do you have so many enemies in the Arab world?
They're not enemies. Some of them, the majority of the Arab governments support Syria in their heart, but they don't dare to say that explicitly.
Why not?
Under pressure by the West, sometimes under pressure by the petrodollar in the Arab world.
Who supports you from the Arab world?
Many countries support Syria by their heart, but they don't dare to say that explicitly. But first of all, Iraq plays a very active role in supporting Syria during the crisis, because it's a neighboring country, and they understand and they recognize that if you have a war inside Syria, you will have war in the neighboring country, including Iraq. I think other countries, they have a good position, like Algeria, Oman, mainly. Those are the countries. And other countries, I wouldn't count all of them, but I would say they have positive position, but without taking actions.
Saudi Arabia and Qatar, why are they so adamant about you resigning? And how would an unstable Middle East fit their agenda?
Let's be frank, I cannot answer on their behalf. They have to answer that question. But what I could say, that the problem between Syria and many countries, whether in the Arab world or regional or in the West, that we keep saying no when we think that we have to say no. That's the problem. And some countries, they believe that they can control Syria through orders or through money or petrodollars, and this is impossible in Syria. This is the problem. Maybe they want to play a role. We don't have problem. They can play a role. Whether they deserve or not, they can play a role. But not to play a role at the expense of our interests.
But is it about controlling Syria or about exporting their vision of Islam to Syria?
You cannot put it as a government policy sometimes. Sometimes you have institutions in certain countries. Sometimes you have personnel who try to promote this, but they don't announce it as official policy. So they didn't ask us to promote their, let's say, extremist attitude of their institutions. But that happens. In reality, that happens, whether through indirect support of their government or through the foundation for the institution and the personnel. So this is part of the problem. But when I want to talk as government, I have to talk about the announced policy. The announced policy is like any other policy, that is about interests, it's about playing a role. But we cannot ignore what you mentioned.
Iran, which is a very close ally, also exposed to economic sanctions, also facing a threat of military invasion. If you were faced with an option, cut ties with Iran in exchange of peace in your country, would you go for it?
There's no contradiction. I don't have this contradicting option. Why? Because we had good relation with Iran since 79 till today, and it's getting better every day. But at the same time, we are moving toward the peace, and we had peace process, we had peace negotiations. Iran wasn't a factor against peace. So this is misinformation they try to promote in the West, that if we need peace, we don't have to have good relation with Iran. There's no relation. It's completely two different subjects. Iran supported Syria, supported our cause, the cause of the occupied land, and we have to support them in their cause. That's very simple. Iran is a very important country in the region. If we are looking for stability, we need good relation with Iran. You cannot talk about stability while you have bad relation with Iran, with Turkey, with your neighbors, and so on. This is it.
Do you have any information that the Western intelligence are financing rebel fighters here in Syria?
No, so far what we know that they are offering the knowledge support of the terrorists through Turkey, sometimes in Lebanon, mainly. But we have the other intelligence, not the Western, in the region. Some of them are very active, more active than the Western, under the supervision of the Western intelligence.
What's the role of Al-Qaeda in Syria at this point? Are they controlling any of the rebel coalition forces?
No, I don't think they're looking to control. They look to have their own, let's say, kingdom or emirat in their language. But mainly now they try to scare the people through explosion, assassination, suicide bombers, things like this, to push the people toward desperation and to accept them as a reality. So they go step by step. But their final aim is to have this, let's say, Islamic emirate in Syria where they can promote their own ideology in the rest of the world.
From those who are fighting you and those who are against you, who would you talk to?
We talk to anyone who has genuine will to help Syria, but we don't waste our time with anyone who wants to use our crisis for his own personal interest.
You know, you've been many times, not you, but the government forces have many times been accused of war crimes against their own civilians. Do you accept that the government forces have committed war crimes against their own civilians?
We are fighting terrorism. We are implementing our constitution by protecting the Syrian people. Let's go back to what happened in Russia more than a decade ago. You faced the terrorism in Chechen and other places. They attack people in theaters, schools, and so on. And the army in Russia protected the people. Would you call it war crime? No, you wouldn't. A few days ago, Amnesty International recognized the crime that was committed a few days ago when they captured soldiers and executed them. And the Human Rights Watch recognized more than once about the crimes of those terrorist groups, and it was described a few days ago as war crime. This is the first point. The second point, if you have army that committed crime against its people, this is devoid of logic, because the Syrian army is made up of Syrian people. If you want to commit crime against your people, the army will divide, will disintegrate. So you cannot have strong army, unified army, while you're killing your people. Third, the army cannot withstand for 20 months in these difficult circumstances without having the embrace of the public in Syria. So how could you have this embracement while you're killing your people? This is contradiction. So this is the answer.
When is the last time you've spoken to a Western leader?
Before the crisis.
It was before the crisis.
Before the crisis.
Were there any time at which they tried to give you conditions that if you left the post of presidency, then there will be peace in Syria, or no?
No, with me directly, no. But whether they propose that directly or indirectly, it's a matter of sovereignty. Only the Syrian people will talk about this. Whoever talk about this in the media, in a statement, directly or indirectly, has no meaning and has no weight in Syria. So, no.
But, you know, do you even have a choice? Because from what it seems from the outside, even if you wanted to go, you wouldn't have anywhere to go.
Exactly.
Where would you go if you wanted to live?
To Syria. I would go from Syria to Syria. This is the only place where we can live. I'm not puppet. I wasn't made by the West to go to the West or to any other country. I'm Syrian. I'm made in Syria, and I have to live in Syria and die in Syria.
Do you think that at this point there could be talks or diplomacy, or we've reached a stage where only the army can do the thing?
I always believe in diplomacy. I always believe, and I always believe in dialogue, even with people who doesn't understand or doesn't believe in dialogue. You have to keep trying. Whether you succeeded or not, I think you always have partial success. You have to look for this partial success before you achieve the complete success. But you have to be realistic. You don't think that only dialogue can make you achieve something, because those people who commit these acts, there are two kinds. One of them doesn't believe in dialogue, especially the extremists, and you have the outlaws who've been convicted by the court years ago, before the crisis, and their natural enemy is the government, because they're going to be detained if you had normal situation, let's say. The other part of them is the people who is being supplied by the outside, and they can only be committed to the people or to the governments who pay them the money and supply them with armament. They don't have choice, they don't have decision, they don't own their own decision. So you have to be realistic. And you have the third part of the people, whether he's militants or politicians, who can accept the dialogue. That's why we've been in this dialogue for a month now, even with militants. And many of them give up their armaments and they went back to their normal life.
Do you think a foreign invasion is imminent?
I think the price of this invasion, if it's happened, is going too big, more than the whole world can afford. Because if you have problem in Syria, and we are this last stronghold of secularism and stability in the region, and coexistence, let's say, it will have a domino effect that affect the world from the Atlantic to the Pacific, and the implication of the rest on the rest of the world. I don't think the West is going in that regard, but if they do so, nobody can tell what's next.
Mr. President, do you blame yourself for anything?
Normally, you have to find mistakes with every decision. Otherwise, you're not a human.
What's your biggest mistake?
I don't remember, to be frank now. But I always, even before taking the decision, I have to consider that part of it will be wrong. But you cannot tell about your mistake now. Sometimes, especially during crisis, you don't see what's right and wrong until you overcome the situation that you are in. So I wouldn't be objective to talk about mistakes now, because you're still in the middle of the...
So you don't have regrets yet?
Not now, as it. When everything is clear, you can talk about your mistake, but you definitely have mistakes. That's
If today was 15th of March 2011, that's when the protests started to escalate and grow, what would you do differently?
What I would do what I did.
Exactly
the 15th
the same.
of March, exactly the same. To ask the different parties to have dialogue and to stand against the terrorists. Because that's how it started. It didn't start as marches. The umbrella was marches, but within those marches you had militants who started shooting the civilians and the army at the same time. Maybe on the tactical level you could have done something different, but as president you're not tactical. You always take the decision on strategic level, which is different.
President Al-Assad, how do you see yourself in 10 years' time?
In 10 years, through my country, I cannot see myself. I can see my country in 10 years' time. This is where I can see myself. More
do you see yourself in Syria?
Definitely. I have to be in Syria. It's not about the position. I don't see myself whether president or not. That's not my interest. I could see myself in this country, safe country, stable country, more prosperous country.
President Bashar al-Assad of Syria, thank you for talking to our team.
Thank you for coming to Syria again.
World War III, motherfuckers. What, y'all think? Y'all think the motherfuckers is playing, man? Assad said, look, man, if they invade my country, there is no real prediction of what the outcome may be, but it will be felt by the whole world. Yo, that's some scary ass shit, son. I don't know what's gonna happen, but it's gonna affect the whole world. Let the motherfuckers invade my country. Everybody gonna know something. Whoa, bruh, this shit is shit is getting deep. So, whatever y'all enjoy doing, y'all better do as much as that shit as y'all can. For time is up. I'm gonna just keep doing what I always do. Smoking and painting. With World War III upon us, I was gonna do like a bunch of those motherfuckers doing Y2K. They thought the world was gonna end, so they just went out, vacation, travel, spent all their money, cause the world gonna be over in a little while. And then the world didn't end, and now they're like, fuck, I gotta file for bankruptcy. But just in case World War III does pop off and Russia nukes America, I gotta start checking some shit off my bucket list. You know what I'm saying? I need to go parasailing. I gotta go to Africa. I gotta do a lot of shit this year, man. Cause these motherfuckers ain't playing. Shit making me nervous. Oh, damn, son. Why y'all had to vote for Trump? That's what I don't understand. Like, I mean, it kind of don't matter who the president. They agenda gonna get through whatever. You know what I'm saying? The deep state, they gonna get their shit in there. But still, we could have had somebody else to do that shit. Not Trump leading us in the goddamn World War III. What the fuck? This nigga. Man, oh man. Oh, I got like 20 minutes. I'm gonna get out of there. Cause you know what comes on at night? The Walking Dead. It's gonna be the last episode for the goddamn season. Then that shit going off until November. But Fear the Walking Dead comes on right after their regular show goes off tonight. I've tried to watch that show, but I don't know, man. Planet Flat Earth 2018 nature documentary. Earth is not flat, bitches. My bad. way to work.
Street astrologist, set up the mic, God knowledge, block joints, the character points, Corolla, roller, being God, he back over the shoulder, chrome tanks, play like Yanks, check the franchise, front on my guys, my enterprise, class, many lives, repel on face like reflectors, he had sugar in his ear, this last crack career, we can get him, manhandle him, if you want him, I'm running this cripple, Tito's skate like Columbo, and jets in the block, state, relate, take a break down the hate and wait, drop it like Drake Dogs, they be doing this going, we can do it, plenty doing the same shit we doing, fuck you doing this the same style, with the trainer boy, jump the turnstile, on the alley, try to challenge God for the new bounce, especially that aluminum platinum, legs laid back, telling grenade attack, face black, max, in legs, white cats like index, making me sore, busting these fly spread while he can't camp crazily crazy with my plans, laying with my bitches and my mans and Lex lands, we losing them, jet to the stash and now Jerusalem, abusing them, rocking his jewels like he using them, low pro star, 7th-day waves, rock polar, rolling the older guard, build with the sun and the star.
DJ Smokey, 666 Smoke. Pound of weed and a kilo. Now you think I'm on a machine to the club code. Now you think I'm on a machine to the club code. Like chop roll, serving yayo to the gringos. Now you think I'm on a machine to the club code. Now you think I'm on a machine to the club code. And a pint of lean, pound of weed and a kilo. Like chop roll, serving yayo to the gringos. And a pint of lean, pound of weed and a kilo. Now you think I'm on a machine to the club code. Now you think I'm on a machine to the club code. Like chop roll, serving yayo to the Bring it back. Bring it back. This shit is hot. Surprise, motherfucker. So much money on the Pokemon school clothes. So much money on the Pokemon school clothes. I upgrade your baby mama to a condo. I upgrade your baby mama to a condo. And a pint of lean, pound of weed and a kilo. And a pint of lean, pound of weed and a kilo. Like chop roll, serving yayo to the gringo. Like chop roll, serving yayo to the gringo. Don't worry about what the fuck he be doing. It's DJ Smokey. call my boy DJ Screw Up. See what my partner up to. That boy probably sipping and dipping, sewing some shit up.
Chop that shit up. That shit got me wanting to hear some.
Switch eyes, baby.
It's time to slay these bitch baby. They ain't even know what type of niggas we is. In my time,
Switch the house.
I know you niggas been waiting for this for a long time. Well, here it is, what you gonna do? Well, I must be coming to the Armageddon, Lord. Lord, that I won't fly by that lesson. You taught me to put on my west and you brought me. And I'm stressing and salting. Get them up off me, cause always when it was home and it been bombing, make your bed on my ghetto. I won't settle, get on my liver. They can't stop me and pop me, nigga. They got me fucked up. Little pockets get separated, get managed, get damaged, yeah. I'm gonna jump on that, I said a weekend, I said I'm on down. So take the devil there, after they're war, when they get the door for the murder, I'm a horror, what to do the toe for the cause, and I've been pulling out a little nigga with my fucking niggas is on. Oh, busy get up, to the test, been blessed, the floor, and the nigga attempt to arrest and stress me, the more looking to death, but the last of my breath, I know my kids, but no sin in my head. Yes, I remember this gift, the best of my secrets, even the least of my lungs, nigga, been singing, if you really want me, let it begin, let it begin, let it begin, let it begin. Yeah, some motherfucking hands on your strap, nigga. Yeah, we can do this like gangsters and slug it out. We can do this like punks and punk it out. Pull your strap on me, nigga, you better kill me. Thug life, baby. I'm punished for hard living. Line to the facts, loves is convicts in God's prison. Hands on the strap, I'm punished for hard living. Line to the loves is convicts in God's prison. Hands on the strap, I'm punished for hard living. Line to the loves is convicts in God's prison. Hands on the strap, praying, so Father, please forgive me. Police be rushing when they see me, I flaunt it. America's most wanted, live on TV like pleasure and pain. Stuck in this Harlem my name. We all gon' die, we bleed through similar veins. Please explain to me now, don't panic when my guns burst. Heard the last jam, nigga, this one's worse. My own came, love player. Tell these bitch niggas bring it on. I caught a plane out to Cleveland late last evening. Help my niggas clean up some niggas no longer breathing. Damn, who do you believe in? Hit the weed and breathe. It's a cold ass world, niggas. Kill you in your sleep. Watch me until they stop me. Murder me or drop me. I got thug love, nationwide. Watch it, feel me.
Michael Watts. Switch House remix, man. I'm finna bring this shit back for all my niggas out there on the West Coast, man. All my real G's out there that know about this Tupac, man. R.I.P. nigga.
I'm punished for hard living. Line to the thugs is convicts in God's prison. Hands in the strap. I'm punished for hard living. Line to the thugs is convicts in God's prison. Hands in the strap. I'm punished for hard living. Blind to the clubs is convicts in God's prison. Hands on the screen, so Father, please forgive me. Police be rushing when they see me, I'm flaunted. America's most wanted, live on TV like pleasure and pain. Stuck in this Harlem, my name. All gon' die, we bleed through similar veins. Please explain to me now, don't panic when my guns burst. Heard the last jam, nigga, this one's worse. My own chrome, I came, blood player. Tell these bitch niggas bring it on. These bitch niggas bring it on. These bitch niggas bring it on. Call, now, please, sleep, help my niggas clean up some niggas no longer breathing now. Who do you believe in? Hit the weed and breathe. It's a cold ass world, niggas. Kill you in your sleep. Watch me, stop me, murder, drop me. I got love, nation, watch it, feel me.
Y'all know nothing about that shit, man.
Y'all don't know nothing about that shit, man. What the fuck?
Real players feel that shit, man. Y'all can't fuck with this shit.
DJ Michael Watts, how you mix that shit like that, son?
Switch
houses, baby.
From the land, nigga never ran. Motherfuckers out to give me, they don't understand. It's the number one nigga right with a nation. Them niggas down to put in some work. Niggas some dirt fucking around with the billion ball. Thugs in harmony, follow down the road. We stroll to meet karma. Everything I do will seem to cause drama. Ready for the war like a knight in my armor. Bomb ya. So quick to test. Just nigga wanna press me, eat dust. For the love of the love, niggas bustin' on us. Hit them up with the bus 12 kg rush. It's my on the war. Putting niggas on the floor when I'm coming through the door. Bringing nothing but terror. Causing much pain to the nigga that dead. Try to put a twist in his stuff to ever get up. Think I make a rock, nigga like we gotta stay high. Thug love to the die, keep a prayer to the sky, but I'm still in the hood smoking fry. So I beg the Lord to save us all, escape us of misery. So I beg the save us all, escape us of misery. Bless my niggas in penitentiary, bless my niggas in penitentiary, bless my niggas in penitentiary, soldiers of the century.
They give it to my niggas, then they get down. Done with the dirty, and we don't fuck around. Fuck a couple of rounds, and if they pass through, they hit the ground. And no control up in the crossfire. Nigga, artillery thick, and you don't want to get the fucking with this. I'm straight jumping out the bucket with this. I reload, fuck a little more. Niggas stay for the pump, don't even know. What you looking for? They don't know. A motherfucker with a leather face. Hey, said I'm missing this, said I'm hoes and never know because I got away. I'm criminal mind to keep a nigga on the level sometimes. I get out and analyze your crime. Correctly organized, but some should be surprised. Nigga, can you feel the vibe? We can rap play, niggas, you got to die. It's on went bone, better leave it alone. More thugs don't crack, they fucking dumb. We in the hood with the thugs blaze. Fucking with nothing but thugs, man. Taking them bombs and dumb. Ain't taking no shots on the bombs and cracking them down. Ain't taking no shots on the bombs and cracking them down. Give it to him on another level, nigga, get a show and you can dig a whole bitches this day. Infrared to your head, you can beg, you can flare, but still gon' be bloody. For the mind will be seen in the moonlight. We alright for you. Better run for cover, nigga, dog. We bout to bust straight at the infrared, put it on his forehead, make some moves. It's trauma, put a card in the motherfucker, send him to his mama, tell her he was dead wrong. Now we wrong.
Man, y'all ain't want that chocolate school shit. Hold on. Damn, he just reminded me. Let me see. This is my shit.
I'm taking this with the barbed wire. Down on my fifth and I swerve. Drunk as I sit on the curb. Get up to purchase some herbs. They using my nerve while a nigga got stuck to serve. Heard about thugs and hustlers, but I never knew nothing like us. Been broke with drugs and I'm off with dumpers. Suck these thuggish, ruggish nuts. Beat this stuff, make a nigga wanna do some dirt. Putting in work and I hit it where it hurts. Putting it down on first and I hit it with a weed and curse. Some worse the worst. Joke if you wanting the death bomb. The consequences of fate already been strapped. it here, drop a piece to the double clock, ready when the trouble knocks, pop, pop, your pistol now. If a nigga wanna run up, gun up, put him on the ground, make him lay down, stay down, harmony smooth with the duck shit. More murder to the fools, they clown. 5 niggas low out with the roughness, and this war trying to craft these bombs. Bring on your stretches, you're chilling, you're part of your rest in the car, but we're daring to cross this. Come and get that ass tossed by the boss, bitch. Ain't taking no shots and no losses. Come break them down. Taking no shots and no losses, man. Come break them down. Taking no shots and no losses, man. Come break them down. Taking no shots and no losses, man. Come break them down. Nigga, come fuck with me now. Cause that nigga that pump, nigga, that's my daily bag.
Yeah, I swear to God, I was in like 7th grade listening to this shit. Yo, boom, what's up, man?
Nigga, we're coming to cut ya. Every nigga the same mode. Say that if they want the same mode. Niggas that be telling the state of the thugs. When nigga back up, it's the bone thing. What? Never taking no something I lost. It's scraping up on the make. Let's see. More murder. And Weezy will be with me. Creeping on the come up, doing it for the love of money. Stalking gatos, smoking jackals. Ready to back you if we have to. Remember, but no surrender. Kill 'em and niggas who's keeping the girlfriend. Men no pretender. Let the face take it, no something I lost it. Come break them down. Taking no shots, no losses, man. Come break them down. Taking no shots, no losses, man. Come break them down. Taking no shots, no losses, man. Come break them down. Taking no shots, no losses, man. Ain't taking no shots, no losses. Tossing niggas all up in the office. Let them know when they run up, I gun them. Gotta let them know who the boss is. See, pop, let them drop more thugs. Them niggas is nothing but killers. We creeping, we needing more money. We seen it, we caught it, we hungry. I'm living my thug stuff. My clique consists of nothing but hustlers. The nigga, you know that I hurt you, starve and murder my busters. Not hard time, gotta grind, get mine. Even if it means snap, that's your life. And the nigga gotta die by the sword that gave my 9 and my 9. Talking my ball, my gloves, all up in you. Now what? Shoot a bitch just like a nigga. Ain't no favorite trigger, your fault. It's wishbone, no sword, gotta get mine. Yeah, it's my time. Me and my thugs, smoking, choking. Let a nigga be your D. Off that wine. Don't break them down. Taking no shots, no losses, man. Don't break them down. Taking no shots, no losses, man. Don't break them down. Taking no shots, no losses, man. Don't break them down. Remember when they told us out of the dark side? Come creep in a barrel, bitch, if you test my hood, it'll be your life. Even if we bring up click and toss, it'll do you no good.
Y'all ain't really fuck with Bone back in the day.
My nigga just a nigga business, so can I get a witness? Give you the kick this, gonna get my shit and then you fucked up. Give up your brain, niggas ain't talking about the time stuff. Grind, swine, with a good time, come again now, they drop down. When I walk the block, fuck your cops, me and crazy, better do the on your daily. Gotta get them up to the clock, so I can turn my drugs and maintain. To the brain, it's up for mine, it's my thing, I'll give the dope game. And then we'll ninja, and all of my niggas remember, never tender. Get rid of off the clear, nigga, fucking no surrender.
I don't remember that shit.
Them calling me Mr. Bill Collector, needing me money, though it's up tonight. So they never lost scandal. And if they put it off with a cash, that's gonna have to be the price. Don't be fucking with my money, nigga, no. Super crazy for the bump, then I kill them all. Pump slugs with the blood, hit the wall. What the fuck, not dog, who you gonna call? But the niggas in the cover with it, probably really up another places on the pump, bitch. So a nigga just can't fuck me. Nigga better have big cash, so I kill his own family when they twerk games pump. That's not test me. Never ever let a nigga ride when they diggy finna slide. My baby is fine, but with money. Because they pay me in dash, and that's what we do. Just bitch looks in that ass, they tell it. And I never wanna say no. Till this motherfucker trying to keep a nigga in slow. If this nigga's mother primo, gotta go with a thing, gotta quit till I don't know. Gotta make that money, man. Give me all my change, it's a murder thing now. Even in the dummy game, niggas coming up slang from the back that they flame, not leather face. Can think of it, got the mask, and nigga live plans, nigga better respect her. We can see the big collector, regular niggas for the flags. But they paying them dues, running with truth, nothing to lose, everything to prove. Little thug from the same town, never call.
That shit say 0. I ain't even watching myself. How was that possible? It's all good. I had a long day at work, and I'm about to get off anyway. But I'm off for the next couple of days. And I will be on early in the morning. Because I really do want to get through these paintings. So tomorrow, hopefully I can work my way, finish the tie. Well, I'm still applying the second layer of paint on here. So tomorrow I want to at least get some more highlights on the tie. Get a second layer of paint on the water pipe. And get a second layer of paint on the pants. And then everything will have 2 layers of paint. You can see a little bit more details are starting to pop out. I do want to actually start painting those letters because that actually has no paint on it right now, those letters. So, and work on that part, and then I probably have to paint that yellow one more time too. But I'll get up on all of that, like I said, in the next couple days. And so I can get this one finished and move on to the next one. Hopefully the weather will get nice soon. I can start back doing some heavy networking and trying to pick up some new models for some more material that I got in mind. But appreciate everybody stopping in, chilling with me, checking me out, yo. Still working on the dang series. About halfway through with the series, so a little bit more to go. Alright, peace till next time.